It's about that time. We need a GOAT list. I feel like there have been quite a few big wins recently that have made it so that I think, even though I've not done a GOAT list before, I feel like it needs an update, right? Like, people need a refresh. Or at the very least, I want to, speak about who I think are the best fighters in the UFC. I'm just going to quickly go through the honorable mentions. I'm not going to spend too long on this. Charles Oliveira, he's still my boy. I still love Do Bronx, man. I know he lost last weekend, but I still love my boy. Pereira, Chama is retired, I think. Or at least that's what it seems like. But, he had some good wins, double champ. I'm not going to lie, Dominic Cruz is here because I think that he's probably the second best bantamweight. And even though bantamweight sometimes is kind of overlooked as a division, he's still amazing as a fighter. And his legacy still holds up, especially if you include the WEC wins, which I think you should. Then you got Jose Aldo, who, similarly to Dominic Cruz, if you factor in the WEC wins, has an amazing resume. The only thing is, obviously, the level of comp wasn't super high, and also he lost to a bunch of people. And then we got BJ Penn. People forget, man. People forget. BJ Penn was a marauder back in the day. Moving on to the actual list, we've got Stipe Miocic at number 15. All right, now, I'm not going to lie. The reason why we've got this guy at number 15 is because heavyweight, despite the fact that I think he's the heavyweight GOAT, heavyweight kind of sucks, right, as a division. And this is kind of true of the heavier weight classes. They usually kind of suck. Heavyweight was better back in the day, in my opinion, which is why he's still on this list, and why you wouldn't see someone like Tom Aspinall anywhere near a list like this, at least not yet, because the level of comp just isn't that high now, and it never really was, to be fair. But he was dominant. Stipe was dominant in a division that was known for unpredictability, right? All these KOs, and he somehow managed to rack up a lot of wins. He beat DC twice, obviously the second time, and honestly all the times. DC was pretty old, but still great wins. He beat Ngannou. He's 1-1 with Ngannou, but still. He beat JDS, he beat Overeem, he beat Verdum. He has great wins. The negatives with Stipe is, like I said, heavyweight kind of sucks, and also he lost to DC, which kind of ties into the lighter man skill law. Why you can't get KO'd by a light heavyweight, man. Moving on to number 14, we have Dricus du Plessis, who, in my opinion, I know that people don't necessarily agree with this. I know this from conversations that I've had online and in person, that people don't really agree with this take, but I think that Dricus is the second best middleweight of all time. And I'll get to that, right? He hasn't lost in the UFC. He has wins over Robert Whittaker by finish, Sean Strickland twice, Israel Adesanya also by finish. Those are crazy wins. People don't speak about the streak that Dricus is on. This is excluding the Darren Till win, the Derek Brunson win. He has other good wins, the Brad Tavares win, but to beat Rob, then Strickland, then Izzy, then Strickland again, back to back to back to back, is crazy. No one has that 4-fight win streak in middleweight history. And that's why, in my opinion, he's the second best, behind the guy who you can probably guess is at number 1. The main negatives is he just doesn't have that many UFC fights, and his goofy ass style. Honestly, get this guy out of here. Hopefully Hamzat subs him in 2 seconds. Number 13, we've got Anderson Silva, who, in my opinion, is still the middleweight GOAT. He has the longest win streak in UFC history still, and he has wins over Damian Maia, Dan Henderson, Forrest Griffin, Vitor Belfort. I mean, who can forget about his amazing win against, who did this guy beat? No one. That's the thing. He kind of farmed wins off of nobodies, off of taxi drivers. And obviously he had great longevity, right? To not lose for the amount of time that he didn't lose for is amazing. But he got a title shot after his first or second fight in the UFC, I think. So it wasn't like he had to grind to get to the title. And obviously that's circumstantial, right? That's just the way that the UFC was at the time. It's not his fault. I'm not criticizing Anderson Silva as a fighter here. I'm just saying that people surpass him, right? At the time when he was fighting, he may have been the GOAT. But unfortunately, it's been long enough that people have beaten other people who are better at this. Just harder fights, stylistically and skill-wise. They're just closer in skill, everyone is, compared to back in the day when Anderson Silva was fighting. And also he lost a bunch. People try and pretend like losses don't matter, especially with certain guys like Anderson Silva and some other guys, but losses matter. especially like the Weidman losses, like those count. Anyways, moving on to Pantoja at number 12. He, in my opinion, is the second best flyweight ever. In my opinion, he's beat higher levels of comp than DJ just all throughout his career. He's just had harder fights against harder opponents. Pause. And even though he doesn't have as many wins as DJ, as many title defenses as DJ, he's still creeping up there. Like, honestly, the main thing with this guy, like, he beat Brandon Moreno 3 times, he beat Brandon Royval twice, he beat Kai Kara-France twice, he beat Manel Kape. Like, he's kind of lapping the division. Not even kind of. He is lapping his division to the point where it's going to make it really hard for him to, like, get new wins that people respect. Like, for example, if he beats Brandon Moreno again for the 4th time, are people really going to be like, whoa, and like give him crazy props and bump him up 2 spots on the GOAT list? No, because you already beat that guy 3 times. We already know that you can beat him, so you beating him again doesn't really prove that much. Same with Royval, same with Kai Kara-France if he ever gets a title shot again. Same with Manel Kape, same with Steve Osek, same with Kaya Sakura, same with basically every single person in the division, besides Figgy, who's not in the division anymore and kind of looks washed up. So yeah, that's the main thing with Pantoja. I honestly love this guy as a fighter. I think he's my favorite fighter currently. And I'm not trying to be biased with this placement. I genuinely think he is this good, and his resume is genuinely this good. He just needs a few more wins. And the main thing with Pantoja that makes me sad, this isn't even a negative for his resume right now, it just makes me sad as a fan of him, is that, like, he's gonna lose due to age. Like, he's already like 35, I think, 35, 36 soon, I think. So he's just gonna lose based on age, not because of skill. I think skill for skill, he would beat DJ prime for prime, and I think he would just never lose. Like, if he was able to just like be cryogenically frozen and just brought out of the chamber every time there was a title fight, I think he would win forever. But we can't do that, unfortunately. So he's gonna lose eventually. But yeah, Pantoja's the GOAT, man. I wish people gave him more respect and also were bigger fans of him. I get why they're not. He's not the most exciting on the mic, even though he can speak English. It's just not fireworks. But I still love Pantoja. At number 11, we've got DC. Got Daniel Cormier, who was the first simultaneous double champ on this list so far. Obviously, there are going to be more. He had amazing longevity. Same with Stipe. That's the main thing with DC. And he only lost to the best, right? Like, he couldn't beat Jones, and he lost to Stipe back-to-back when he was old. But the good thing with Stipe is he did get a win over Stipe, and then with Jones, the second fight was overturned, so that doesn't really count. But he did lose to, like, we all know that he kind of got outskilled by Jones in both cases, in both fights. And I'm not really a Jones fan. I am a big fan of DC, but you have to admit that, like, okay, you weren't the best at any point. He was the best heavyweight when he beat Stipe, but then he lost to Stipe back-to-back. But he does have wins over Stipe Miocic, Anderson Silva, Rumble Johnson twice, Alexander Gustafsson. Tough fight, but he got through it. And yeah, the main thing is heavyweight and light heavyweight just aren't that great. But DC is still my boy, man. At number 10, we've got Max Holloway. He dominated in a great division. He has a very good quantity of high quality wins. He's not retired. Why am I trying to like write this guy's obituary? He has wins over Jose Aldo back to back, which people try and write off as like, oh, Jose Aldo was old. He was literally in his 30s. He wasn't old. Max was in his 20s. He was literally not even in his prime yet. Outside of his prime, Max Holloway beat up Jose Aldo twice in a row. But people try and downplay that. He beat Brian Ortega as a title defense. He beat Justin Gaethje up at lightweight, which kind of ties into the whole pound for pound sort of ranking thing, where he was able to move up a division and get a great win. He also beat Charles Oliveira. I mean, we're just throwing that in there. Obviously, we know the circumstances, the esophagus injury, all that stuff, but still, he did beat Charles low-key. He has other great wins as well. If you know anything about the UFC, you know the wins he has. Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, Arnold Allen, the list goes on, The issue is, he's got kryptonite, right? Like Superman. He's got kryptonite from the land down under. He just cannot beat this Aussie guy. To be fair, like, I don't think he's ever going to have to fight Volk again, which helps. But he does have 3 losses to him on his resume, which is just not great. And he also has 2 losses on his resume to Dustin. If he loses to Dustin for a 3rd time, he might have to get up out of this list. Like, I'm not even faulting him for the Ilya loss, because everyone loses to Ilya. But, like, losses do matter. And Max has quite a few losses in his prime. So, we have to consider those. You got Usman at number 9. In my opinion, he's still the second best welterweight of all time. He's still tied for the second longest win streak of all time. And he has wins over Colby Covington twice, Sean Strickland back in the day. People forget, man. Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal twice. I mean, he's 1-2 against Leon, which is not aging well, because Leon then went on to lose to Bilal and then lose to Sean Brady, and it's just not that great. And he has been pretty inactive. He's had one fight in the past 2 years, or 2 fights in the past 2 years. But the comeback win against Joaquin is really good. The fact that he was able to come back, prove that he still has it. I mean, he doesn't have it in the striking, but prove that he still has the ability and the willpower to get wins in the UFC against top levels of competition. That's what he proved, and that's impressive. You can't take that away from Usman, and he's still up there, man. I don't think he'll ever become champ again, because the guys he'd have to beat at welterweight, he'd have to beat Jack Della Maddalena, not happening. At middleweight, he'd have to beat Dricus or Hamza, not happening. He'd lose to both. He already lost to Hamza, even though I kind of think that fight was a draw. And also, not gonna lie, the 10-8 in the first round is a bit of an iffy 10-8. UFC 5 are scoring, I'm not gonna lie. Number 8, we've got Khabib Nurmagomedov. We got the Eagle, undefeated in a very tough division. He had a very good quantity of wins, right? 29 wins. I mean, even if we just count the UFC, obviously he did not have 29 UFC wins. I would say that he's the second best lightweight of all time. I know there's some people who still think that he's the best lightweight of all time. He's still number 1. And there are also people who think that he's like terrible, that he only beat up cans and he only got favorable matchups. So you kind of get this like split opinion where you have one people on one extreme and then you have other people on the other extreme end of the spectrum where they think that he sucks, but then there are some guys that think he's like the most amazing guy ever. He's the GOAT because like he never bled in a fight. That means he's the GOAT, which to me is like Mickey Mouse criteria, right? Are we really gonna say that someone's the GOAT because they never like bled in a fight? Like, he lost rounds to Gleason Tebow. Let's calm down. But he does have wins over Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Rafael dos Anjos. People forget, man, former champ. The issue is he won the belt off Raging Al, and he dipped during his prime. He's kind of just like soft locked to 8, and he's only gonna like go down from now. He can't go up. Obviously, that's how it works. But yeah, could be nothing to be ashamed about, nothing to hang his head about. Still amazing. Number 7, we got Volk. You got the bold Aussie. He is still the featherweight GOAT, in my opinion. He broke the 35 curse. He has wins over Jose Aldo, Max Holloway 3 times, Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. He came back and beat Diego Lopez after getting KO'd by Islam and Ilya back to back. This guy proved that he still has a chin. He proved that he still has fight IQ. He proved that he still has speed. He proved that he still has the will, the desire to win. And he also proved that he still had aura by saying after in the post-fight that he didn't even care about the belt. He just wanted to show to his daughters that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish in life, which to me is the most aura you could possibly gain, plus the famous line, adversity is a privilege. He has a few losses, nothing to hang his head about, right? Ilya and Islam. And a few early on in his career, who cares? There's really not much to say about Volk in terms of like negatives. He's an amazing fighter. Love Volk, one of my favorite fighters. At number 6, we got DJ. Honestly, the main thing with this guy is he has a podcast with MMA Guru, so I just don't think we can have him that high up on the list. He has an insane quantity of title wins, and he is the flyweight GOAT. But like I said with Pantoja, it's not like flyweight is that great, and it really wasn't that great when DJ was fighting, right? He did get a win over Henry Cejudo, which is great, aged well. Joseph Benavidez twice. He beat Kyoji Horiguchi, but the rest are nobodies. Like, who did he beat, bro? He beat Tim Elliott coming off tough. He beat Ray Borg. I mean, it's cool. Like, the flying armbar stuff is cool. The suplex into armbar is cool. And he is really skilled. And then, you know, after the UFC traded him off, he managed to get wins against Adriano Martins and stuff. But, like, he did lose to that guy as well in ONE FC. And he lost to Cejudo. And he lost to Cruz, which is fine. Losing to Cruz is fine before flyweight existed. But I just think that people still view this guy like he's on the Mount Rushmore of the UFC. But resume for resume, he's just not. He's not in the top 5 anymore. He's bumped out. This guy became a double champion last weekend in difficult divisions, right? Like the toughest. Okay, let me not say the toughest, but very hard divisions. Like, just understand who he had to get through in order to accomplish this, right? He had to not only get to the belt at featherweight, which to be fair wasn't that hard when he was fighting for the belt, because Max Holloway and Volk low-key ruined featherweight for like a few years, because they were just the only two guys, and anyone who came close to getting a title shot would fight Max, lose to Max, and then Max would get a title shot, lose to Volk, and then it's like, okay, well, what are we even doing? So it was very easy to get a title shot. All you had to do was just not fight Max. To be fair, Ilya would have beat Max if he fought Max. Either way, he didn't have to fight Max. So they gave him a title shot, which he deserved, but it's just like he only beat Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell. But the point is, he then fights Volk, KOs Volk. He then fights Holloway, KOs Holloway. He then fights Oliveira up a weight class, KOs Oliveira, KOs Do Bronx. After beating Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell and Yusuf Zalal, that win is aging well. And Diamond Jackson, I mean, that's a win. Jai Herbert, that's also a win. Ryan Hall, that's also a UFC win. To be fair, those wins really aren't that great, but to be fair, I mean, they're still UFC fighters, and he still beat them. And he also beat Volk and Holloway and Oliveira. So if you include all of that, if you take all of that into account, this guy is a few wins away from being the GOAT, in my opinion. Like, just a few wins. He's honestly, he might be the best fighter. Number 4, we got Merab Dvalishvili. This might be controversial. Not just having Merab this high, and not just like actually being a fan of Merab, but having Merab above Ilya after what Ilya just did. Some people might be raging at this, or just, even if they're not raging because they don't actually care about my opinion, they might just think that I'm dumb for saying this. But I think that being the bantamweight GOAT, like the definitive GOAT of your division, in a good division like bantamweight, puts Merab above someone like Ilya, despite what Ilya's accomplished. And it really comes down to quantity, right? First off, let's just get this out the way. Merab kisses his opponents, alright? So that's immediately plus 500 aura. But then he also has wins over Sean O'Malley twice. The second one was a submission. He beat Pete Yan, like, completely. In my opinion, he fraud-checked Pete Yan. Like, people talk about that win like, it doesn't matter. It's just threat of the takedown. That's why he was able to, like, outstrike Pete Yan by, like, 300 million quadrillion strikes because of the threat of the takedown. Like, no, maybe it's skill. Maybe Merab is just that skilled and Pete Yan just wasn't on his level. Because last time I checked, I watched that fight, Pete Yan was shooting takedowns on Merab. Pete Yan was on the ground trying to elongate grappling exchanges with Merab in like the 3rd round, even though Merab was the one who was trying to stand back up. To me, that looks like Pete Yan wasn't afraid of being on the ground. It looked to me like Pete Yan was just being outclassed by Merab, and he had no answers for the cardio, and he had no answers for the wrestling, and he had no answers for the constant onslaught of Georgian machinery. All right, he beat Jose Aldo. To be fair, he was getting up there in age, but Aldo has wins since then. He beat Umar Nurmagomedov, who is Khabib's cousin. So, I mean, clearly it must be a good win, right? He beat Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist at wrestling. He picked him up and slammed him on the ground in front of Mark Zuckerberg and kissed him and hugged him. But people act like this guy's not entertaining. Like, he has a few losses in his early career which have asterisks next to them, like the Ricky Simone fight. And like, you could argue that maybe he needs a few more title defenses, but to not give this guy his flowers, if you don't have this guy in your top 10 minimum, you don't know ball. Merab is that guy. He's just that guy, man. And I don't think he loses until age catches up to him. I don't think he loses. At number 3, we've got GSP. This guy still got it. He's the welterweight GOAT, double champ. I mean, he beat Michael Bisping for the second belt, so it's not like, you know. But he beat Matt Hughes twice. He did lose to Matt Hughes, but it's okay. He beat Nick Diaz. He beat BJ Penn. People forget, man. He beat BJ Penn twice. He beat Michael Bisping. People forget. I mean, he did also beat Matt Serra, but like, I think losing to Matt Serra and tapping to strikes is worse. It's like, if we had to compare, okay, beating Matt Serra versus tapping to strikes versus Matt Serra, which one is more impactful on your legacy? I think tapping to strikes to Matt Serra is a little bit more impactful than kind of beating him in the, not kind of beating him, but beating him in the rematch. It's kind of like Amanda Nunes. Like, okay, cool, you beat Juliana Pena via decision, but like, you kind of tapped to a barely in rear naked choke from her. So it's a bit like, that's a bit more embarrassing than the win is impressive, if that makes sense. But it's still a win, right? GSP had great longevity, came back after being off for a long time, showed that ring rust doesn't count. The only reason he's not in the like top 2 or number 1 is just because the other guys kept fighting. Like, I genuinely think if Jones never came back and fought Gane, I'd have GSP at number 1. But he did come back. And there's also another guy who's still fighting currently, not retired, not like Jones, and he's been fighting and he's been winning, and he's got a good resume, and that's Islam Makhachev at number 2. In my opinion, this guy's the lightweight GOAT. He is tied for the second longest win streak in history with Kamaru Usman. People don't like this guy. Again, it's similar to Khabib. You have one extreme. You have the people who hate this guy and want to see him die in game in UFC 5. And then you have other people who are like, oh my god, this guy's so amazing. He's the best fighter ever, and he's so funny, and he's so wholesome. I love Islam Makhachev. And it's like there is middle ground where you just acknowledge his greatness. Because that's what we have to call it. It's greatness. Beating Volk twice, beating Charles Oliveira in his prime, beating Dustin Poirier out of his prime, but still Dustin Poirier, still a live dog, beating Arman Tsarukyan, who does that to Renato Moicano, man? Who does that to Dan Hooker and to flipping Bobby Green, King Green? Who does that to those guys, man? People forget, man. This guy's really good. He's almost the new GOAT. I know that Ilya is above him pound for pound, and I agree with that placement. Just because, recency, pound for pound, it really is a recency ranking. And Ilya Topuria's most recent wins trump Islam's most recent wins, because his most recent wins is Renato Moicano and washed up Dustin Poirier. So as far as that's concerned, I put Ilya above him pound for pound. But for overall, of all time rankings, Islam is still clear of Ilya. I mean, to be fair, Ilya could pass him with one more win. If he beats Islam, obviously Ilya is the new GOAT at that point. But for now, Islam Makhachev is still number 2. I know people have kind of forgotten about this guy in the past month or so, because he's not really been doing anything besides saying, oh my god, brother, it's hard for me to put on pounds, brother. And that's the only thing anyone's heard from this guy for the past 3 months. But still, he is that guy. People forget that I genuinely hope that he wins his next fight. I'm not one of these people who just hates on Islam for no reason. I acknowledge his greatness. And as much as I don't think he's the most amazing guy ever, and I love him, I just think he's an amazing fighter. And I'd like to see someone new be the GOAT. I don't care if it's Islam or Ilya. Just book that fight, to be honest. Just book that fight. Let's see who's the GOAT. I honestly, I don't care who wins. I just want to see an amazing fight. And at number 1, we got Jones. I'll just get through this quickly. It's pretty obvious. He's the light heavyweight GOAT. He was a double champ, whatever. He beat DC, he beat Gustafsson. He beat Stipe Miocic, even though the Gustafsson first fight was low-key a robbery. And he beat Cyril Gane. He beat Dominic Reyes, even though that fight was low-key a robbery. It's just there's not much to say about this guy. He retired as a duck. So he'll be passed soon, hopefully, as long as Islam doesn't lose to JDM and then Ilya loses to Paddy. That's worst timeline, by the way. But yeah, Jones is the GOAT still. People aren't gonna like this PED accusations and stuff. Not even accusations. He's tested positive for steroids. He's been on steroids in his career, but his resume is that good. And even though light heavyweight isn't a great division, and even though he has some robbery wins, he just had so many wins that it's which is why I said the list goes on. It's just so many wins that it's okay. And then he moved up and he beat Gane, which is a great win, even though people downplay it and say that it was rigged. It wasn't rigged. It was a great win. The Stipe win isn't that amazing because Stipe was old, but still. He beat DC, who I have on this list, so it's we have to count that as well. Gustafsson was great. He beat Machida when he was on top. He beat Shogun when he was on top. It's you have to respect this guy, but I also, at the same time, don't respect him. It's I have a nuanced take when it comes to Jones. I don't like him as a person. I think he sucks, but at the same time, I acknowledge his greatness. And I hope someone passes him. But for now, we have to admit that this guy is... If you're counting PED cheats, which you probably are, because I'm sure that you have Anderson Silva in your top 5 or whatever. If we're counting PED cheats, then you kind of have to have Jones at 1. Who else would it be? GSP? He tapped 2 strikes to Matt Serra. So that's my list. That is my GOAT list. See you guys in a bit.